the defendants, and that's Meta, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, were saying, this is not the kind of lawsuit that can be brought. Our I was going to say our products are not products, but these things are not products, and so you can't bring a product liability lawsuit against us.
Interesting
They're
argument.
services, and that's kind of service versus product, and so they wanted to dismiss the whole thing. Basically, it would have gone away. And the ruling came out like literally, I think it was the day we left Las Vegas. So then everybody wanted to get together on webinars and all talking about it afterwards. Anyway, the judge upheld the case and said that it will go forward, and that she did find that there was a claim for negligence in the way that they designed these algorithms and the fact that they knew that they were addicting teens and young adults.
Prioritizing profits.
Dangerous drug and product cases.
Welcome back, everyone. Another episode, another week, another episode. Prioritizing profits, dangerous drug and product cases. Here to give you the laydown, all the good info, or I guess bad info, the bad stuff going on in over-the-counter drugs, prescription drugs, products, all of it. We'll give you the bad news.
The important news.
The important news,
Do with it as you will.
But first things first, how are you doing? How was this last week? Any exciting weekend plans or upcoming plans, anything like that?
Well, both. Actually, I had a very exciting weekend. We went to the Alice Cooper concert Saturday night, so pretty excited about that. Yeah. I've been following Alice Cooper since I was about 14 years old. Have seen him multiple times. But he was here in Tucson Saturday night, and so amazing show. He's into his 70s for sure, and lots of energy. Sounds great. It's one of those concerts where I know the lyrics, every word of the lyrics to every song, and obnoxiously sing along. So that was fun.
You're an OG fan.
OG for sure.
A real one. Yeah. That was the first concert that you took me to.
Yeah, it was.
Alice Cooper, which it is a show. It's fantastic. Originally I was kind of hesitant to see a concert because I didn't really understand it, right? Like it's a very basic position or point of view where it's like, oh, you're just watching someone sing a song that you can listen in your car.
Exactly, yeah. And most concerts are like that. Yeah. Most don't have the theatrics.
Yeah, but he has a full-on theatrics.
Full-on
the one that I went to, he literally hung himself.
Yeah.
On stage, which is insane. That's a pretty crazy stunt to be doing yourself, especially, let alone.
Yeah. Well, he had his head chopped off this time.
Wow. Was it believable?
No. But if you were 10 or however old you were at the time, it might have been believable. But for me, at my current age and level of experience,
no one was screaming bloody hell in the audience, crying, thinking their savior had just passed.
No.
That would be a way to go, to be fair, right? He's 70 years old. He's still performing. His life revolves around it, and he's born on stage. He dies on stage.
Well, maybe that'll ultimately be what happens someday. I don't know.
But that sounds like a really fun time. Tucson, I'm also surprised how many artists come to Tucson. I never really thought of us as kind of like just a place that artists and musicians would come to play. Why not just go to Phoenix instead? And I know a lot of time they'll do both, but they're so close because, we had Drake, Post Malone, Lil Peep died here. I think we had Mac Miller and Juice WRLD in the area as well.
I don't even know who these people are.
They're just like insanely big top 10 artists and musicians, and then they come and have a show in Tucson, Arizona, which, maybe I'm just underselling us. I just never really thought we were.
I'm actually surprised, because the really, really big ones don't come because we just don't have a venue that fits
exactly.
them. Like Rolling Stones, that kind of thing. Garth Brooks, you have to go to Phoenix because they can sell out these, 50,000, 60,000 seat arenas, and we don't have that in Tucson. So a lot of the concerts it feels like I go to are, some of them, maybe that were more popular when I was younger, and but they're still making the tour, but they're 10, 20,000. more along those lines. Yeah.
More reasonable numbers when it comes to people coming.
Yeah, and then when you're old like me, it's like overwhelming. I don't know. That whole big place up in Phoenix is an ordeal, in and out, and a whole mess.
Yeah. Well, that's a good time. Anything
good.
else going on, or any other big events this last week?
Yes, actually. So it was a busy weekend for us. So Sunday night we went to Mr. Bing's Supper Club. It was his season premiere. With the Alpha Rhythm Kings, this really great band that came out of San Francisco, and Crystal Stark, who's a local amazing singer-performer. And then there was like a surprise performance by Daniel Gilmore, who is a local, really, really talented actor, singer, dancer, everything. Wow. And so that was really fun. Great night. Got a good opportunity to get dressed up in Tucson. So lots of pictures. So I mean, that's a full weekend for us.
Yeah, no, it sounds like it. And is that the Mr. Bing's what's the opening party? Was that a big event? I mean, it sounds like that you guys had quite the lineup there.
Yes. Well, I mean, he always has amazing performers, but so he only does it kind of during the season. So in the summer, too many people are gone. So October was the first of the season. So it was kind of like the season premiere. And it was a great.
And is it a show? It's at a restaurant, right?
Well, it's actually at the Savoy Opera House. Okay. So and he does it as a pop-up currently until he gets his own space. But it's a really beautiful venue, kind of old-fashioned, and it's like the whole 20s style. But so supper clubs were like a big thing back like in the 50s and maybe even 60s. And it was like these world-class performers, but they also served dinner and people got really dressed up.
Yeah.
So it's kind of takes you back to that time. And so there was a beautiful Italian buffet. And then we had like he's started having a new ticket tier of VIP seats. Ooh. And so, yes, that was actually my suggestion. And so the VIP reception, they provide champagne and some hors d'oeuvres and an opportunity to socialize and mingle with the stars prior to letting everybody else in. So that was really fun. And of course, I provided my non-alcoholic champagne, which I shared with others.
Generous.
I'm a very generous lady. But anyway, it was really, it was great opening for the season. I'm excited about the upcoming shows. Yeah,
that sounds like a lot of fun. There is a restaurant that sounds similar to that where it's essentially a play, and then you can also order dinner. It's kind of like the Roadhouse Theater, which was like revolutionary for us.
for movies, yeah.
Yeah, you could get dinner and watch a movie. Insane, and does great. But same idea where you get to watch a play and have dinner. And I've always thought that was so interesting and such a great idea, because I mean, but dinner's fun and it's all about the company, but sometimes there's some lulls in conversation,
a little more entertainment,
downtime, and then when you have this whole show going on, I feel like that just makes it even better with good food.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great idea. And the next one is actually the November one had to be canceled due to some scheduling conflicts. But December, I think it's December 17th. It's going to be the holiday show. So maybe you and Christina can come down and join us for that one.
I'd love to. That'd be a good time. VIP passes as well.
Of course.
They got to stock up on the champagne if we come.
Definitely.
That sounds like a good weekend. I didn't really have too much going on this upcoming week, as you know.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Big time. I'll be leaving Saturday to go to Amsterdam for Breakpoint. Pretty big crypto event. Happens every year. Last year it was in Portugal, in Lisbon. Went there. It was fantastic. Good times. The market also took a dump at the same time, so that ruined the vibes a little bit.
A little bit of a damper on the whole party.
Yeah, but things are turning around now, and it's going to be good seeing everyone that I've talked to and worked with for the last 6 months to a year, see them in person again or finally meet them. And I'll be there for a full week. It's going to be a little bit mixture of business and pleasure. I'll be going to some meetings here and there, some talks, some speaks, and then also going to restaurants and maybe even a play. Who knows?
Well, and as we were saying, the really great thing is that you're taking your beautiful girlfriend Christina with you,
yes.
And so I think that makes it a lot more fun.
Yeah. Well, so on Halloween there's a Magic Eden yacht party, which they had at one of the previous events, and it's just a big ass boat. I mean, I don't even know what classifies a yacht, but I mean, it had like 2-3 stories, and it's on Halloween, so some people are dressing up, and as you know, we're monkeys. That's SMB Solana Monkey Businesses.
I finally got the banana thing.
Yes, and Christina wants to dress up as a banana and run around the yacht as a banana. And then we also have this...
the monkey's chaser.
Well, okay, I don't know. That might be a little bit much. But like a big banana suit. And there's also this thing we have, it's called Banana Stand. So it's like when you hop on Twitter, if you like their posts or you talk in Discord, then you get bananas. And then you can spend those bananas to buy other random stuff like tickets to events, like NFTs, a bunch of IRL stuff, jackets. Anyway, so she was going to run around as Banana promoting the banana stand for all the monkeys.
How is she going to travel with a huge banana suit?
I have no idea. I also, in my mind, had a nightmare of it just being like a yacht full of just like very well dressed, business professional people, and then she shows up in like a full blown. I mean, the top, right? Like it's the banana at the top of the banana. If you've ever seen Family Guy with Brian, he runs around in the banana suit. It's literally just like that. And I was like, what if she's the only one wearing anything? Like anything like that. Like everyone is just very normally, if not kind of like updressed, and
she'll get attention.
Yeah,
she'll win the costume prize
if there is. But
they'll make one up if there isn't. I don't know. I think it's pretty cool. But she can wear something nice underneath the banana.
I think it'll be good. I think, and more people are dressing up. I've been asking around.
All right. I got to see pictures of this for sure.
Yeah, that's gonna be an interesting. But it goes on to the next topic. We will be missing an episode next week. So apologies for that. But then the following week we'll be right back on it, continuing our weekly shows. I know you guys are going to be sad, and your Wednesday mornings are going to be meaningless without our show. However, we will be back.
Well, of course, we'll be back. And absence makes the heart grow fonder, and you'll appreciate us even more. I mean, and perhaps Fernando will be putting together some of our
highlights or something.
Highlights,
like that.
Yeah. We're talking about maybe putting all the Ozipics together, since that's been a hot topic. Anyway, if we may have something for you, but if we don't, we love you, we miss you, and we will be back.
And if there's something you want to see too, if there's a specific case, like I can't get enough of those Zempics, please, I need a know all video for it. Boom. We can pump that out for you next week. So let us know there. But let's get into it. Let's get into main topics. As we always do, we'll start with updates on cases.
Yeah, so updates on cases. And there is an update on the CPAP litigation that we've talked about. So the CPAP sleep apnea machines. And again, the problem with those are the sound or the noise reducing foam that can break down, become inhaled, and ultimately cause a variety of different types of cancers. And so the update on this is that the FDA is a little pissed off. This recall has been going on since June of 2021, and they're saying that there's not enough research, enough studies have not been done to really adequately advise people on just how risky this is, how much danger they're in. We know about these various cancers, but they want some follow-up studies done. And so they're saying and also it's just taking a ridiculous amount of time for them to get these machines replaced. Yeah. So FDA is on their butts and saying, get your shit together. Again, this is a big case. It's an ongoing case. We're still signing cases. Over 100,000 complaints about the product, and 385 deaths.
Wow.
And I mean, probably many more. Again, so many people don't even know about this. They're using the product, and perhaps they've been diagnosed with one of these types of cancers, but they're not going to immediately think, well, that's because of my CPAP machine. Something we've talked about a couple of times. We're going to keep talking about it. And if you do use this product, if you have used it, if you have come down with a cancer, it's a whole long list of the different cancers. You can see them on our website, get in touch with us, we'll let you know. So that's kind of the update on that. FDA's pissed.
Well, and we won't really know the magnitude of it either, because this is still an ongoing problem, right? Like
people are still using it.
Exactly.
I mean, and again, they can't get them replaced quickly enough. To be able to sleep, they're using them.
They have to.
They're continuing to be exposed to this potential carcinogen.
That would be one thing if they just swapped it out, or they were more timely with the recalls and swapping out all this stuff, but they're not. So when you mentioned more research research needs to be done in order to figure out what adverse effects that this is having. Does that responsibility lie on the pharmaceutical company, or will the FDA kind of step in if they're taking too long?
Well, no, the FDA is telling telling them they need to do it, and I mean they can impose fines and restrictions and all sorts of things. But yeah, any of these aftermarket studies, the manufacturers are obligated to do them.
Isn't that kind of I don't know, that feels a little sticky there.
What?
I mean, yeah, I think
They have to make sure their product is safe and
they're
people are responding well.
Yeah, they're determining how many lives are being lost, how severely impacted, negatively impacted their customer lives are. That seems
well. I mean, they take a close look at the studies as well. So
okay. So the FDA they are looking over their shoulder, making sure everything is done correctly, and that's good that they're getting on them about that. It seems like FDA's stepping up recently a little bit. First with the hair relaxers, and then now with the CPAP machines.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, but again, I mean, I mean, not to criticize the FDA, but until the attorneys and lawsuits start making a lot of noise about it, these things oftentimes don't happen.
Yeah.
But it gets out in the news, and people start screaming, and then okay.
So
maybe this product needs to be pulled. Maybe more research needs to be done here. Maybe you guys need to speed up this process. Yeah, but having the governmental entities step in definitely makes it more serious, and I think they take it more seriously. They're constantly saying, "Oh, these lawyers are full of shit. There's nothing wrong with the product." Blah 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 blah.
I was gonna say
we're probably gonna win all the cases.
It's probably good for the case as a whole as well. If the FDA is stepping in, then clearly there's a big enough issue, and there's enough connections to the product itself that that just helps the case in the long run.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. So yeah, it's a strong case, and it's moving forward. An active case.
So yeah, if you are using a CPAP machine, and this is an issue that all CPAP machines currently have, any of the noise reducing material used within it. I mean, again, the stories that you've mentioned about people literally finding like small black
like the particles in their
particles
lungs.
in their lungs. I mean, that's just terrifying. And I mean, it's helping you breathe, but little do you know, you're inhaling all that.
You might not be breathing for much longer.
Yeah. Well, if anyone is using CPAP or anything like that, definitely recommend to go get that checked out, go see the physician, reach out to us, reach out to another attorney, and kind of get the lowdown there, or keep tuning in because we'll definitely keep everyone updated. What else do you got for us for updates?
So another update, we had talked a few episodes back about the one chip challenge and the spicy chip where this 14-year-old boy had died. And so the investigation is ongoing with regard to the cause of his death and whether it actually, what this chip did cause or contribute to his death. In the meantime, though, the product is being removed from stores.
Wow.
And additionally, people are really looking at this whole challenge thing. These I mean, the idea. So, and the manufacturers of the product are saying, hey, the product clearly states that this is for adults. It's not for children. It says, if you have issues with spicy foods, don't consume this thing.
Yeah.
So there are warnings on it, but then you get the social media hype, and teens are really susceptible to that type of thing.
Yeah.
They're impulsive. I mean, everybody else is doing it. They want to go and do it.
Too.
Absolutely. So, there's a big issue with that. Again, we don't for sure know if it did cause or contribute to his death. But in the meantime, they're taking it off the shelves.
Which is, that's kind of shocking to me because a few things here. First off is that they still are investigating the cause of death. We spoke about that 2-3 weeks ago. How long does it take for them to figure out if, this chip specifically caused its death, right? Like, I feel like there's only so many ways that it could have.
I mean, if they've done an autopsy, they must have, and sometimes they'll say undetermined with the autopsy. We're going to talk about another case shortly where that's the case. But, I don't know why it's taking so long. And, perhaps I don't know.
Well, and then also that it's already being taken off shelves without it coming to a conclusion or without anyone knowing for sure. Definitely looks a little suspicious because I remember in the story, I didn't even really understand the connection. He had the chip at school. His stomach hurt. He went to the nurse's office. They sent him home. He went and took a nap, and then his brother found him later that day dead. Like, there wasn't necessarily, it wasn't like he ate it and then 5 minutes later collapsed.
Yeah.
So the fact that already the manufacturers kind of throwing their hands up saying like, okay, we'll take it off the shelves, guys, like we'll see what's going on.
Well, I mean, but there are some risks to it. I mean, the active ingredient, this capsaicin, apparently your body can see it as a toxin and want to try to get rid of it. I mean, when it's really extreme, and so that can cause, diarrhea, vomiting, and any of those kinds of things that, can certainly be problematic if it throws off, if you're vomiting and your electrolytes are off, or if you have any kind of condition like an arrhythmia or any kind of cardiac issues that could potentially, again, throw things off and maybe contribute.
Yeah.
So, I mean, and perhaps maybe people just don't. I mean, what really is the point of this thing?
Yeah, that's fair.
It's not like it's food. It's not like you're going to be filled up with one chip.
The point of the product is for it to push you to your limits.
Right. And I mean, is that really such a great idea?
That's a fair point. It's a fair point.
It's not like, oh, I'm starving, I'm going to eat one chip.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna be better. I mean, it can't provide any kind of significant vitamins or sustenance or nourishment.
That's fair.
So I don't know.
That's fair. I think something else that you mentioned that I thought was interesting was kind of what you mentioned with the whole challenge culture. Because I remember this whole thing came up with the Tide Pod challenge, if you remember that. And for anyone that's unfamiliar, the small little Tide Pods that you use for laundry, there was a period where there was a Tide Pod challenge, and it would just be to put one in your mouth and crack it open, like just bite into it, not eat it. You just spit it out right after, but just bite into it. Which, to be fair, I'll give them credit. When you have one in your hand, it is just like it's like an oddly, like I would imagine it being an oddly satisfying thing having it pop. Like it just, because it's just so
terrible. Like,
of course, but it's like a grape. When you bite into a grape and you get that crunch, that pop, you're like, wow, that's a good grape right there. That's a good Tide Pod right there.
I guess, but I mean, couldn't you just squeeze it and have some satisfaction out of popping?
No. Then it wouldn't be a challenge. But but there was a big problem because a ton of kids were doing it and recording themselves and thinking it was hilarious. And if you spit it out, you're okay. But what would happen is it would pop, and then some people would like laugh, or they would inhale it in some way, and then it would exactly, and it would get into their throat, and even sometimes get into their lungs. And then once you get those toxins, I mean, the toxins in there, I would have to imagine, are just insanely strong because they're made to get dirt and grime out of your clothes. Well, it's
going to be very caustic and acidic,
exactly,
right? Because
exactly.
You're getting grease off of things. Yeah, like you said. I mean, it's not, and of course the manufacturers going to warn, don't, I don't know if they initially warned don't eat these things, but eventually they did and put them in child.
Well, maybe they should have warned because
it's reasonably foreseeable.
Look how delicious and poppable they are.
I don't know about delicious, but how satisfying. I guess there's some sort of compulsion to chew them. I have never experienced that.
Well, they're bright colors too. If you made it like goopy and brown or dark green, then be like, ew, I don't want to eat that. But it's like red and blue, cherry,
you also
blueberry.
Don't put some shit-colored stuff on your clothes. So
well, then it's the lesser of two evils.
Okay, I don't know.
Either you eat it or you put shit all over your clothes.
I don't know. I think, but it's interesting though, because this whole cultural thing of the challenge. I mean, it almost seems like this one chip thing was made specifically for that purpose. And then there are dangers with any challenge, because if it's completely safe and harmless, then really is it even a challenge?
No, it's not.
I mean, what's the fun in that? Yeah. I mean, so it's encouraging that type of behavior.
Yeah, well, I mean, and it all kind of started with the ASL ice bucket challenge.
Oh,
way
okay.
back.
Yeah.
That was like the first that I can remember.
ALS.
ALS, yeah, not ASL. ALS ice bucket challenge, which is you recorded yourself and nominated 2 or 3 people and then dumped a bucket of ice water on your head. And it was supposed to raise money for ALS, which it did. Right. There is actually a brand new drug that just came out, hit the markets in the last like year or 2 years. I think it was last year. That was directly funded by that challenge. But that's another thing where it's like, I mean, that's kind of like the good side of a challenge, right? Because ice bucket, no one's gonna really get super injured there unless you're dropping big ice.
Yeah, but I mean, there are some people who like that shock of cold. I mean, depending again, if you're like particularly fragile,
yeah.
if you
well, then you should just stay in your room. You should stay in your room, not leave your house, not get in the car. If a ice bath is gonna end it for you, call it a day. Then I'm sorry.
You could have like a cardiac condition and that kind of extreme shock. Who knows?
Yeah, when I take a shit, the extreme shock of this magnitude of it, my heart can't handle it. I mean, at that point, really, we're just cherry picking here. It could be just about anything that will take you out.
All right, we're a little off.
We're a little off.
A little off here. Anyway, so we'll see what happens on that. But yeah, I mean, these challenges are risky, and that's why they're challenges, I suppose.
Yeah. Well, definitely interested to see what the biopsy. I think biopsy is the right word.
Well,
right?
autopsy.
Autopsy. There we go. Biopsy is when they're alive.
Well, biopsy is like what with a tumor or something,
yeah,
or not necessarily.
Well, they're alive.
You could biopsy linings of anything.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's just where you take a little sample and test it, as opposed to an autopsy where you are definitely dead.
Yeah.
If you're not, there's a big fat lawsuit coming down. Coming on.
Definitely interested to see what comes out of that autopsy. It's probably about time that this one chip challenge died off. I mean, it has gone on a little too long. A lot of big influencers in on it. But yeah, about time. Moving on, though, cases that we are handling.
Yeah, and so actually this is a good segue because the case, a big update on a case that we're handling, and that's the social media addiction cases, which we have talked about previously, and I'm sure we will continue to talk about. But when I was at Mass Torts Made Perfect, I guess it was a couple of weeks now ago, they were waiting on a big ruling because the defendants, and that's Meta, TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, were saying, this is not the kind of lawsuit that can be brought. Our I was going to say our products are not products, but these things are not products, and so you can't bring a product liability lawsuit against us.
Interesting
They're
argument.
Services, and that's kind of service versus product, and so they wanted to dismiss the whole thing. Basically, it would have gone away, and the ruling came out like literally. I think it was the day we left Las Vegas. So then everybody wanted to get together on webinars and all talking about it afterwards. Anyway, the judge upheld the case and said that it will go forward, and that she did find that there was a claim for negligence in the way that they designed these algorithms and the fact that they knew that they were addicting teens and young adults. Although she did say that it was. Well, actually, she didn't. Well, she said it was not a product, but she also did not say that it was a service. And it's a little bit, but she said that their behavior, we can pursue the case based on their actions being negligent. But also a fraudulent concealment argument was upheld, and that's important because that will allow for punitive damages, which are the really big, crazy damages that will convince these companies not to do certain things.
And the fraudulent concealment, I'm assuming that's not letting their users know of the algorithms that they're using to kind of rope them back in and keep them coming back.
Right, or hiding that they knew and they continued that they knew that these product. I keep saying products, it may not be a product, but that these
services.
But we don't want to say it's a service either.
Yeah,
but the social media platforms. These platforms are addictive, and they want them to be addictive because by making them addictive, they addict people who keep coming back, and then there are they can sell ads, and they can make billions and billions and billions of dollars, which they do. So they are concealing that. They're not. They certainly don't want parents to know just how dangerous these are and the types of ads that they're feeding to their kids.
Yeah. And I mean, okay, so with their initial argument saying that they're not actually a product, they're a service, and so this product liability suit going against them just doesn't work. And That's what they were arguing. It didn't sound like the judge really made a decision or said one way or the other if it's a product or if it's a service.
Well, she said it wasn't a product, but she didn't say that it was a service. And so this was kind of a preliminary, it's called a demurrer in California, which is where these cases are domiciled or are brought because the companies are all domiciled there. So that's still to be determined. And it's a kind of a wishy-washy thing because the way that she made the decision was she said, well, you can't touch it like a product. But then electricity is a product and you can't touch electricity.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of kind of arguments. And what ultimately will be determined, we're not sure, but the case is not getting dismissed. And the fact that there are negligence claims and the fraudulent concealment claims is allowing them to go forward. But I don't think that argument is done at all. It's going to be hard fought because once, if it is a product, there are certain claims like the failure to warn, and there's a lot of very product-specific claims that can be pursued. So the case is moving forward. I'm sure it will, exactly which angles are going to, will kind of come out in the litigation. But the good thing is it's not dismissed. It's going forward. Discovery is starting. And so that's really, really key.
Yeah.
And I mean, always you find so much out when they have to start disclosing all the documents. I think that might even be where you're going. But, they did have a whistleblower who came forward that started this whole thing. But I mean, there's, I'm sure, just so much more information that we're going to see as this goes forward.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I think this discovery phase is going to be really exciting. It's going to be really interesting to see just exactly what it looks like behind closed doors, what's going on the back end. Because, I mean, all of us use these platforms. And some of it, it's noticeable when there's kind of like this addictive feature, like refresh rate or something that comes up. Like you can see it, but there's also a lot that we just don't consciously recognize, right? And they have, because I know that they have a bunch of scientists and psychiatrists in the back that are, helping kind of create these products, these platforms, media platforms, whatever we want to call it.
Figuring out how to hook us.
Yeah, and there's a ton of good, just like, not series, but I don't know if you've seen Black Mirror.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's a specific episode that's just about this. It's about a guy that goes crazy. I'm not going to spoil it. Doesn't go crazy, but it's one of the main aspects of this episode is about this massive conglomerate corporation that owns a ton of different social media platforms, a ton of different services through those platforms. And they have ingrained it and made it so addictive that like everyone in society is so reliant on it. And whenever you go down the street, you see them looking at their phone. So just kind of this whole idea.
Yeah. I don't think it's that far off. I mean, and even, as adults, I mean, and I can see some of these things happening and how addictive it can be. And I've actually been recently really making an effort to like put my phone down at a certain time in the evening and just, I don't need to be picking it up. And I just shop like a mad woman.
You shop on your phone?
Oh, shit. I mean, yeah.
They know you. They got you hooked.
I know. It sounds like, that sounds great. I mean, hair products, socks, clothing. I mean, makeup. I mean, it's like the best product ever, they say. And all these, of course, probably fake reviews are saying how fabulous it is. And I'm like, and it's so easy to buy now. I mean, it's basically pretty much one click.
Yeah, Amazon especially. I didn't even realize that. Christina kind of got me on that. Is that now it's just like you click a product, and if you have your information saved, which everyone does, right, on your profile, you literally swipe. You just swipe, and it immediately gets delivered. I was like, that's so crazy. I always thought of it as like putting in your info and doing all that. It
might slow you down, and you might have time to reassess.
Exactly.
But so back to the case. I mean, these cases are because it's addicting minors.
Yeah.
That's really the key. And there is over 1,000 cases now that have been filed, and because everybody was kind of waiting to see about this because potentially it could have gotten just dismissed, and then no way, this isn't even a case, and there's a First Amendment argument and all of that kind of stuff, and third parties and blah de blah. So anyway, the fact that it is moving forward, I expect that we're going to see a whole lot more cases getting filed, and this really is going to amp up the litigation. So I think a lot of people were kind of holding back. Do we spend the money and file these if they're just going to get knocked out? So I think we're going to see a huge uptick in filings. And kind of just to recap, again, it's basically under the age of 23. eating disorders, body dysmorphia, severe anxiety or depression, self-harm, and suicide attempts. Those are really the big damage injuries that are the subject of these lawsuits. And certainly we can give you more details if you feel like you were or have been addicted as a teen or young adult, or if your child has.
Yeah, and that was something I wanted to touch on, is because I know that this case is primarily focused on minors, but like you said, 23 and under. Can you talk a little bit about how emotional damages kind of come into a play here? Because a lot of the typical malpractice cases, car accidents, personal injury, anything under there, a lot of the time it's a lot of physical damage, and then punitive damage, which we talk about all the time, right? Is punishing these massive corporations. Not very often do we really get into the emotional or psychological damage, and especially where an entire case kind of revolves around it. How does that change things, or does it change things?
Well, yeah. I mean, and in a lot of cases, like the car accident cases, oftentimes, the emotional distress damages are not significant. It depends on the severity of the accident. I mean, some people are in relatively minor car accidents and they still have a certain level of anxiety about driving again or being in a car, and like the loss of control, and they may need some therapy. But then there are other situations where somebody's in a car accident where they see somebody, their loved one next to them is killed or, maimed or something, and that's much more significant. But again, there are actual physical damages as well. These are really focused on the emotional damages from these young adults who their brains are still forming, and your brain isn't completely formed until I think you're 25. I think you just might have crossed the threshold.
Yeah. Scary thought. I think I could
this is it. Well, here we are.
I could use a few more years.
But so these images are being fed to very young people whose brains are still developing, and they're shown these images of these perfect, unattainable bodies, and so it can cause eating disorders, body dysmorphia, self-hatred, just really awful things that can last your entire life and need serious treatment, or can be life-threatening. I mean, people are having anorexia, bulimia. I mean, these are conditions that can kill you and require significant treatment. And so that's very serious. And of course, like the suicidal ideations, these are huge emotional, mental injury cases. So it is different in the sense that the physical kind of comes after the mental, as opposed to the other direction that you see more in a car accident or that sort of thing.
Well, and on top of that as well, is that these type of damages are almost, arguably just impossible to quantify, as well as they're not like comparable. You can't compare, one person's issues from social media addiction to someone else's, right? Like everyone's different, and the way that it affects them is different. Something that you've also talked about with cases is that oftentimes there will be enough reason to believe that a product has caused this injury to the victim. But is it the direct correlation, right? Like there's what makes a good case and a bad case. A good case and a bad case is that a good case, it is like, lung damage, but they're not a smoker. There's no other, outside sources that you could say could result in that lung damage. In a case like this, how does that look? Because these problems aren't quantifiable, and you can say that they caused these damages, anorexia, all of these things. But what if they also had, a difficult home life? What if there was other traumatic events? In court, would they go through those and say, well, actually, this psychological damage is from these other traumatic events in their lives?
Well, and the defendant's always going to look for alternative causes so that they're off the hook. But what will be very interesting in these cases is that as they get filed and as this discovery phase goes forward, they're going to have to turn over what was being fed to these people. And so if you have somebody who's suffering from, severe body dysmorphia, anorexia, and you see that the ads that they were feeding them are just kind of, pardon the pun, feeding into that, then that's going to be very, very strong evidence. And, and there's the diet things and all of these filtered images. And again, we all live in a society that has these, unrealistic expectations of, I was going to say women, but it's women and men. But we see a lot of that really affecting women. So of course we all live in that society, so you can't take that away.
Yeah.
But did this person, how many hours were they using it? Because this isn't somebody who just, goes on there 1 hour a day. I mean, we need to see the strong cases are people who are using it 3 hours and more a day. And some kids are using it. I mean, that's
3 sounds a little low.
3 is really low, but kids who are using that and that's where they're getting their information. It's not like, we used to have magazines and all. I don't even know if people, I mean, I actually do still get some physical magazines, but things like that. But there's TV. But I mean, the social media and just this barrage of ad after ad after ad. And if what's being, I don't want to say fed, but what's being directed, by the algorithms to these kids are right along the lines of the problems that they're suffering, I think that is extremely strong evidence. But again, every single case is going to be looked at individually.
And so for the individual cases, when you're mentioning the specific ads, are they going to be able to track down the specific ads that they gave that specific person, individual? Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, they can show that.
Yeah,
Exactly.
that just shows just how much they have on the back end. That fact that they know what ad you saw 5-10 years ago.
Well, and they want to know if it works.
Yeah.
I mean, they want to they're keeping information about what happens. And so people's purchasing patterns and that sort of thing. I mean, they've got all kinds of info on me, for God's sakes. They know just what I need.
Yeah, they know
that. Just what I don't need. I have a lot of it, but I'm susceptible to continue buying.
Yeah. They know the next purse before you know you need it.
Oh, God damn it. Yeah, exactly. If they would stop sending me those Chanel and Louis Vuitton ads, I would be much happier.
They get you every time. I think that's going to be an exciting one to watch, because I think the discovery phase is going to open up a lot of people's eyes to the products, service, and platforms that they're using, because I still think a lot of people don't recognize just how much goes into everything that they're seeing on the page, as psychologically too. Like, it wasn't being dramatic, that there literally are psychiatrists in the back end.
Totally on staff. I mean, when they pull back that curtain, I mean, and of course they don't want to do that.
It ruins the show for you. Like, if you know that you're being manipulated, then obviously you're not going to want to use the product as much. Obviously, it's going to give you a little weird feeling knowing that everything that you're looking at is specifically handcrafted for you. That's another thing, is I always kind of imagined being just lumped into groups, right? Like, oh, these are people that like gaming, so this is the gaming ads that they're going to get. But what you kind of open up my eyes to just now is that it's not only groups. I'm sure that there's a lot of groups, but they are also tracking so specifically individually you and your ads and your products, and still keeping you in their groups, but a lot more kind of oversight than I imagined.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I just think, so an example, the other day I was thinking I needed new luggage. And I did a search, and all of a sudden, every other ad was a different luggage company. And so I could see that, a teenage girl, looks up a particular diet, and the next thing every other ad she's going to receive is for this diet, that diet, and all of these pictures of here's what you can do, and here's the surgeries you can have, and here's the cool sculpting you can have, and here's the lip plumpers. And I mean, you just go down this rabbit hole, and that's so dangerous for a teenager.
Yeah. Well, and it's, as soon as you think about wanting something, you get all of these people telling you how you can get it. One of the weirdest experiences I ever had, I think I told you this one time, was I was laying in bed watching YouTube videos, and sometimes you get an itch in your ear. And everyone Q-tips straight out of the shower, right? You Q-tip your ear, it's incredibly satisfying. But I had an itch in my ear, went to the bathroom, grabbed a Q-tip, sat back in bed, started the video, it was Q-tip in my ear, went on to the next, and for the first time ever, I didn't say Q-tip out loud either, let's keep that in mind. First time ever, I click on this next YouTube video, and there's a Q-tip ad. And I was like, oh my God. The coincidence is just too insane, because you say stuff and sometimes you'll pop up on ads. Like, I know it's listening, but I was on my Mac and the webcam. And so I'm assuming, like, paranoid me, That, they saw me Q-tip in my ears. Wow, this guy's got some dirty ears. We need to get him some new and improved Q-tips. Next ad, boom, Q-tips. I was shocked. I got a little cover for my camera after that. Yeah. Haven't gotten a Q-tip ad since. They caught on.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, it's really mixed because at times, sometimes I'm like, well, that's cool. I didn't know these other brands of luggage, and I'm trying to find the best ones. And so, I mean, sometimes I kind of appreciate that they know that I want luggage, and they're giving me all of the various options. Mm-hmm. But again, it can be used for evil as well. It's tough. I mean, there's the pluses and minuses for sure.
Yeah, it definitely is a double-edged sword because there's a lot of times too, like you said, like you need luggage and you see a company or a product that you haven't seen before and you're like, wow, I didn't even know that existed. I actually really want that. This is perfect.
Yeah.
Well,
but I'm an adult. That's the difference.
True.
Yes, I haven't bought my luggage yet, so they'll continue to harass me, I'm sure.
Well, I'm sure we'll be getting a lot of updates on that. I'm glad that it didn't get immediately shut down. It sounds like they kind of had a solid argument there with the service versus product, but the judge kind of did a little ring around the rosy on them.
Yeah, but kept it going.
Kept it going, pushed it off a little bit longer. It definitely seems like one of those cases that's going to go in more zigzags than a straight line.
Well, it's going to be hard fought. I mean, look at all of these, all of the different entities and how much money they're making, and how hard they're going to fight this. So it will be fascinating. But I mean, if you were thinking about jumping in, this is it's a good turning point. Hop on in, give us a call.
And so you mentioned 23 and younger. Is it if you use those products? Like, let's say I'm 25 right now. Obviously, I was on Facebook, Snapchat, Twitter when I was 23 and younger. Would I still qualify for a case like this?
Well, it would have to do with the statute of limitations and wherever you resided at the time. So you would have had to have been exposed to it during your younger years and had suffered from a serious addiction. But and there are always arguments to extend it. They vary state by state. So I would say that don't not call because you think that you don't, you think it's too late. It might be too late, but it certainly might not, and we can help you figure that out.
Yeah, definitely recommend giving a call because I think this is something that is, it's a known nationwide issue, right? Social media addiction, especially in the younger generation and my generation and younger. It's especially prevalent. So parents and people that might have personally been affected, I think reaching out and learning everything there is to learn because this is definitely going to be an evolving case.
Right, and very life-changing. I mean, and some of these kids need really extensive, ongoing, potentially lifetime treatment. I mean, these things don't resolve easily, and that takes a lot of time and a lot of expense. So, so this is one way to help potentially defray some of that.
Is there any cases that we're handling that you wanted to touch on?
So another update on a case is the RoundUp litigation that, again, I think we've talked about briefly, but there was a recent verdict, a $1.25 million verdict in St. Louis just recently for the RoundUp product, and that's the weed killer that you've probably heard a lot about.
Not too familiar, no.
Okay.
I don't think we've spoken about it, have we?
We talked about paraquat, and RoundUp was kind of the precursor. But so RoundUp, and it's a weed killer that's used both by homeowners just on their property, and then also commercially.
Oh, is this the really ugly green tint that I see on all the rocks?
Oh, no, that's probably not that. Okay. No. But it's a specific brand by Monsanto called RoundUp, and the chemical is glyphosate. And so, but this condition is causing a very specific cancer, non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, and so there has been the connection's been made to this. If this case has been going on actually for a really long time, which is probably why we hadn't talked about this specific one in detail. There was a settlement for, I believe it was $10 billion.
Wow.
Right. But as part of the settlement, what they wanted to do was set aside $2 billion for any future claims that would come up.
Wow,
and the judge did not allow that because, which is a good thing, because that's a very limited, small pot of money. And, again, this is a cancer that doesn't happen overnight. It's not like you use it once on your yard and you're diagnosed the next day. I mean, it can take years to develop, and people use it pretty regularly. So you still can bring claims. We're still accepting RoundUp claims. And again, it's using the product, and it can be using it at home. If you use it at home, though, it has to be pretty consistently. But also, I think it was like at least 10 times at your residence would be the minimum. And then also if you used it as part of your occupation, a lot of gardeners, caretakers, people like that have been exposed to it significantly or for agricultural purposes. So again, it's non-Hodgkin's lymphoma and then being exposed to this product. But these cases are still going on. And like I said, the verdict just came in, a $1.25 million verdict for a man suffering from non-Hodgkin's lymphoma.
And the product's off the shelves right now?
No, they are.
Wow.
It's not for residential use, but it's still being used for agriculture, and
It's interesting. That's interesting that it can already, a case can be settled that it directly caused such a serious disease, and it's still.
Well, they're still saying that it didn't cause it. I mean, they're saying they settled it to stop the litigation and blah blah blah. But yeah, I mean, there were 100,000 cases filed.
Wow.
And it was 10.9 billion, so almost $11 billion.
And you mentioned how it was a good thing that they didn't set aside the $2 billion for future claims. Is that because it almost would have been just not like a get out of jail free card, but almost just like them signing off? So no matter how many people got sick, it's almost safer for them because for all we know, maybe, another 100,000 cases come up in the next few years, then that $2 billion is nothing.
Yeah. Well, I mean, what they're always going to do the minimum, and what they want is they just want it to be over with. And what we kind of talked about, that it affects their stock prices. It affects, because if there's this unknown, even when they say, okay, we're going to give $10.9 billion, that's it. That's the number. It's not 20 billion, 30 billion. You have, the finality of it. And so you can move forward from there. And so that really does affect stock prices, the viability of the business. They're not going to go into bankruptcy. Yeah. Bam, it's done. But this is too big of a problem, and it's been going on for too long. Too many people have been exposed. And so that was not allowed, and people can still bring cases.
And this reminds me of the mesothelioma case as well, where it's a very specific disease attached to it, which simplifies things a little bit because if someone is using that product and then they obviously get sick with this disease, then it's pretty close and shut, more or less. I mean, the odds of it being something else is very, very
I mean, you can get it from other, there are people who get it who weren't exposed to RoundUp, but again, it's a very specific condition. And taking a look at your medical records and determining, again, what other risk factors you might have, what other kinds of exposures can really hone that in, narrow it down.
It seems like a situation where if you are working in a field that uses products like that, because I'm not sure, I mean, maybe they do, maybe they do, but I would imagine they're not always 100% confident on which what brand weed killer they use. Maybe some days they're sold out, other days they aren't, they're switching back and forth, who knows? But it seems like a situation to me where if you're working in a field like that, you would want to just reach out and see or get it checked out.
I mean, and a lot, you have people who are like groundskeepers at schools, at buildings,
exactly,
things like that. And then there are there would be documents at the company of purchase orders and what kind of products they were using at what times and that sort of thing. So again, it's something that the individual might know for sure, but it's information that we can certainly get for you and clarify one way or the other.
And those are documents like the work orders and the
purchase orders
and all that. That's stuff that the law firm figures out.
Oh yeah, right? You don't have to do that.
And so you guys reach out to the businesses, to the schools, and go through all that. Is there, and then I'm assuming all you need is from the client to sign off with their authorization, and then the school and businesses usually kind of help out with
Well, sometimes they do, sometimes they don't. Sometimes you need to subpoena the information. It just depends.
I was wondering, I would imagine maybe some of them would be a little like stickler about it and make you get down and dirty with the subpoenas.
Down and dirty. If we have to subpoena, we will subpoena.
Yeah.
Don't make me subpoena.
We are kind of coming to a close here on the show. I do want to make sure we cover everything. Was there any interesting cases in the news or questions that you wanted to touch on?
Yeah. So one interesting one that's been, you may have seen this because it's really been in the news a lot just now, is about the lawsuit over the Panera Bread the lemonade. Have you heard that?
No, I have not.
Okay, it was on a lot of the social media channels, and what happened was a 21-year-old college student bought what's called charged lemonade at Panera.
Ooh.
Yeah, so charged lemonade, and it happened that she had a genetic cardiac condition called long QT syndrome type 1, which basically it isn't always a huge ordeal, but what happens is that certain activities can affect your heart rate, your electrical system, the stuff that Peter deals with as an electrophysiologist, and can cause arrhythmias. And so she was a normal active college student, but her physician had told her, just don't use huge amounts of caffeine and don't use energy drinks, because energy drinks, first of all, they have a lot of caffeine, and then they also sometimes have other supplements included. And so this was, and at Panera you go up and you kind of do that self-serve.
Yeah.
And so it's called charged lemonade, and on their website they do talk about the fact that it's like an energy drink, but in the store they don't, and it's just served right there with the regular lemonade and the sodas. And what they say is that it contains no more caffeine than a cup of their dark roast coffee. But that's actually not accurate. It contains a lot more. Apparently, it contains as much as a Red Bull and Monster combined.
Wow.
Right. So she had the large size, and I think it was 390 milligrams of caffeine.
That's like pre-workout. Right.
That's
getting up there.
Yeah, so that's up there. And it also had guarana extract, which is also a stimulant. And the equivalent, and this one gets me, 30 teaspoons of sugar.
Jesus.
I mean, holy
Right.
I can't even imagine drinking this stuff, but you go up and you fill it just like you're filling any other thing. And she absolutely did not understand, because she knew not to do energy drinks. She didn't see it as an energy drink. And again, it's advertised as basically being the same as a cup of coffee, and she's allowed to have a cup of coffee.
Yeah, that's all fair. If the fact that it's just so far above a cup of coffee, I think that's definitely fair. But I mean, if you're looking at charged lemonade, my first thought is, okay, I'm trying to get charged up and ready for my day. I'm trying to get some energy here.
Well, but you also get charged up and ready for your day with a cup of coffee, right?
Well, I need a Monster and a Red Bull.
All right. Well, you are not the average person.
And 32 teaspoons of sugar. Otherwise, I'm not getting out of bed.
30, not 32. But it was really sad because, I mean, she went into cardiac arrest and she died 21 years old. Yeah. So that's a lawsuit that's out there right now.
I'm assuming they immediately took it out of the stores, because I mean they clearly are just
apparently not. Now, as of the last I looked, and I was looking at it today, it was not taken out of the store. What they're saying is on our website we explain that it's like an energy drink, and again, they didn't apparently do it in the store. I suspect that there will be big warnings placed now in the store saying this is an energy drink. Maybe they'll change the name. I don't know what they're going to do. But to provide adequate warning for anybody who, has, potential issues and can't have a certain amount of caffeine.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think that's pretty insane that a lemonade can have almost the same amount of caffeine as, the same of some pre-workouts. I think most pre-workouts usually sit around 400 to 500, like the good stuff. Obviously, you can get...
That's a lot.
It is a lot. But, I mean, you're getting ready for a workout, and it's a big burst in energy. And then there's also, like, beta-alanine and other chemicals like that give you, like, the goosebumps, the pricklies when you're working out.
This does not sound like a good idea.
It's good stuff. It's good stuff. But getting a product similar to that in caffeine from Panera, of all places, because Panera I've always assumed is like almost like it's like Whole Foods, where you just feel healthier going there. It doesn't really matter what you get.
Actually, that's a really good point. I hadn't thought of it in that sense, but it is. It's kind of touted as not fast food and
exactly.
healthier. And a lot of their offerings are. I mean, they have really good salads and a good variety of them, and then sandwiches. Yeah, you're right. I mean, that's and I guess there's like a deal where it's like all you can drink thing on a monthly basis, where you can go and fill your
as many energized lemonades as you want.
Yeah,
charged up.
And so she had just signed up for that. Oh yeah, so it's a monthly fee for unlimited drinks.
She's been charged up all month.
For it.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe she wasn't doing the lemonade the whole time.
Yeah. Well, yeah, and I think that's probably. I mean, hopefully that would be mentioned in the lawsuit. I mean, they definitely do advertise very actively as being a healthier option. And everywhere you go, you can always get some unhealthy stuff. Don't get me wrong, but it's definitely, when you go there, when you're eating there, when you're getting your drink, you overall have this kind of impression that it's going to be healthier than going to Jack in the Box.
Well, you're probably not going to die in the next couple hours.
Yeah, you definitely don't think the food or drinks are going to kill you. That's for sure.
Yeah, there's always something. Yeah, so this was a very, very sad story, very sad. And anyway, just a warning, if you're going to Panera, be careful.
And so this wouldn't be, I'm assuming this isn't something that's like a class action where you would see a bunch of people experiencing issues with this. It's more of a very kind of micro event.
Well, I think that you have to have an issue because the average person can handle a lot of caffeine. You might be very jittery and not be able to sleep and that sort of thing, but it's probably not going to kill the average person unless they have a pre-existing condition that makes them susceptible to energy drinks and that kind of a jolt of caffeine. And again, she did have this condition. She knew she had it, but she was allowed to have caffeine. She was allowed to have coffee, but not energy drinks. And this is so much more than, again, they said it was equivalent to the coffee. It was not. It was significantly more, and then with another added stimulant. So I suspect. I guess who knows? Maybe there's a bunch of people who have had this problem, but I doubt it would be. It's pretty much a single event case. I mean, there may be several of them. And hopefully the information will get out there, and hopefully this will make them place warnings and be clearer for their customers so that if other customers are in that situation, they stay away from it.
Yeah, they don't make the same, or I guess she didn't make a mistake, but the same situation doesn't happen again.
Yeah, I mean, they understand this is dangerous and they don't use it, or it's dangerous for me because it's like an energy drink. It's not like a cup of coffee.
We are coming to a close here, and I wasn't sure if you wanted to touch on any questions or comments before we closed out.
Oh, I don't know about that. We didn't have any questions, just kind of some slimy comments, and which we're always happy to address, but I don't want to go over too much. So we can always do that next time. And if anybody has any actual real questions, we really do welcome them.
Yeah, I would love a good heartfelt question, something a genuine curiosity people had. But also, I think the complaints or concerns that we also get are fine to address. I think that's what a lot of it's a lot of what people think and feel. Even if they aren't commenting it. The confusion and frustration, and especially when it comes to kind of this side of government, of law. I mean, it's pretty crazy to think about all this stuff. It's crazy to hear these high numbers when you don't understand any of the back history or any of the actual damages, anything like that. It's a very clickbaity headline type of stuff, but
it can be for sure.
We're definitely happy to cover it. And if you guys have any questions or concerns, definitely throw them down in the comments, and we'll give you a shout out and we'll go over them, as well as you can email us, podcast@showeredlaw.com. If it's something you don't necessarily want to put out there on Facebook or on YouTube, fully understand. You can shoot us an email with a question, or maybe even just a personal story, an experience that you had that you'd love us to cover or talk about on here, and we'd love to do that. But with that being said, I hope everyone has a fantastic week. Enjoyed this episode. Like I said at the beginning of the show, I will be out of town next week, so we will be missing a show, but we'll try to get something out there for you, maybe a little highlight clip, maybe a little focus in on some of the cases that we've covered. If there is anything that you would like us to discuss, like us to make a highlight reel about, please let us know. We'll help you out.
We are here to serve.
Exactly. But I hope you all have a fantastic week, and we'll see you next time.
Prioritizing profits.
Dangerous drug and product cases.